Hello and welcome to Gardening at 58 North. So in this video I'll be trying out this new planter for the first time. So this here is a Vertplanter. This is actually a new product that they've released and it's called the Vertplanter Lift. So this is a sponsored video. They've sent me a free product and I've also got a link in the description for an affiliate link. So if you buy any of their products through my affiliate link, you'll be helping out the channel. But I'm not actually getting paid by the company itself unless people buy the product through the affiliate link. So to say, this is the Vertplanter. It's a type of hydroponic setup. So the way this works is it's a porous material. It's a type of terracotta. You fill up the middle with water and you keep that as a reservoir. What then happens is the water slowly wicks through the material and it stays nice and wet for the plants, so you're able to grow the plants on the outside. You keep the inside filled with water and you can see the roots kind of growing around the outside of the pot, and it'll be quite interesting to see how it grows. So this is, as I say, it's a new product that they've just launched. They had a previous product which was the classic planter. This one is the lift planter. The only real difference with this is they've just tweaked it a little bit. So for example, they've got a plastic tray now instead of terracotta, so it's less likely to leak out the bottom, because apparently you get a little bit of water seeping out and you need to collect it and then put it back in the top. They've also added a lot more texture to the pattern on the outside, so it's a lot more kind of 3D. This is a lot more surface area for the roots to grow. This should make it a bit easier for sticking plants onto it and just give it a bit more space for the roots to grow. So what I'll be doing is I'll be trying to do a few videos with this, try a few different plants, but I'm just going to go ahead and try some seed stock onto the outside, and then what I'll try is I'm going to put some plants actually wrapped around it, because you can either put seeds onto this, stick them onto the surface and watch them germinate and grow, or you can get a previously established plant and you can tie it on with a bit of twine or wire, and you can have that growing on the outside of the pot. Now most plants should grow quite well on this, but the plants that will grow the absolute best are going to be the ones that are epiphytic plants, which are used to growing on the surface of trees or rocks. This is really well suited for them, so I definitely want to try this for some of my epiphytic plants. It'll be interesting to grow some of the epiphytic plants like they would be growing in real life, with their roots growing on the surface instead of having them in the side of the pot, so you can actually see the roots and see how they would grow in the wild. So, as I say, I'm going to start planting this up. I've already soaked it, so it's already nice and damp. All I did is I filled it up with water, and pretty much straight away it absorbed it. I can show you, I've got some video of me spraying some water on it as well and how quickly it absorbs. It is a very porous material. They basically made sure that the porosity on this is perfect for making sure that plenty of water wicks through and lets the plants get the right amount of water. So these are the plants I'm going to be trying to grow on this planter. So these are a type of succulent which grow wild in the UK, and they normally grow on walls or on the surfaces of hard materials, so like walls and roofs. This is a type of sedum. It's a sedum acre, and it's very small. You can see from my hand for a scale, quite a small succulent, and the seeds are particularly small. And so I've got several thousand of the seeds and I'm going to sow them onto planter. I'll put them on my hand so you can get a sense of really how small they actually are. So I'll bring my hand into shot and you should be able to see there, right on the palm of my hand, I've got some incredibly small minute seeds. So these are going to stick really nicely to the planter. There's a couple of ways you can get the seeds to stick. If you've got very small seeds like I have here, all you need to do is make sure that the planter is nice and damp and just gently scatter the seeds on the surface, and you should be able to see they'll stick quite nicely onto there. What I'll also do is I'll spray a bit of water just to make sure that the planter is damp enough that they're going to stick nicely. Now if your seeds are a bit bigger, you can also spray them with water, but you'll just need to spray them with a bit more water, and it might take a bit longer for them to stick, so you might just want to keep the planter still, allow them to stick before you then put the planter back upright and vertical again. So with the seeds now on the surface, I'm just going to spray them with this mister here. You should be able to see the water quite quickly, rapidly get soaked up by the planter. And I'll just repeat this process, going around the whole pot, making sure that the seeds are all stuck on. I've got quite an even distribution. So I've now got a fairly even distribution of seeds, but all I'm going to do, the ones that fell off, I've got them on my fingers here, I'm just going to rub them on to the areas where I've got a little bit less, just to make sure that we've got a nice even distribution of all these seeds. That way it'll look a bit nicer when it starts to grow through. So that's the seeds now sown. So all I need to do now is fill this reservoir up with water. That will then slowly leach water out onto the surface of the pot, keeping the seeds nice and damp, give them the perfect conditions for germination. I'm going to put this under my time-lapse camera so you guys can see it germinating and growing, and I'll see you in a few weeks' time when we have germination and we'll see how it looks. So it's just under 2 weeks later, and as you can see, nearly all the seeds have now germinated. You can see on the time lapse the seeds had a really good germination rate and they've grown quite nicely. So this hasn't grown a huge amount, the reason being the plants I've used are quite slow growing and I only had the time lapse going for 2 weeks. But I did put a grass seed on as well at the beginning, just to show you how much it would grow if you had a slightly faster growing plant. And this is the blade of grass here, so you can imagine if you covered it with grass seeds, the whole thing would be out to here, nice and green. But I wanted something that was a bit smaller so I could do some nice macro imaging, and also so I can show you the root structure a bit better, because if I just use the grass you'll see lots of grass roots at the very beginning, but there'll be so many grass blades eventually it would cover it all, so you won't see as fine a detail with the roots. But yes, you can see it's grown slightly unevenly. The reason for that is because I had it under grow lamps and I had it for a time lapse, the lighting wasn't perfect, so it was very one-sided, which is why this side it has very short little plants and this side has long leggy plants. And the ones right on the far side were actually just growing from reflected light, and you can see there they've actually grown slightly larger leaves to compensate for the lower light levels. Then if I go around again to the ones that had very bright lights, you can see they have very small leaves to compensate for the very high light levels. So if I was to grow this on a windowsill, I would just rotate this maybe every few days, and then you get a nice even growth of all the plants instead of having some really leggy like this and other ones having too much light. That's just because of my time lapse setup. But I'm really happy with how it's done. As I say, it doesn't look like much because of the type of seeds I've used, but I'm really happy with how the roots have grown. I got some really nice footage as well with the roots growing over time and watching the seed germinate. What's really nice with this setup is although it's nice to have an unusual pot and see the plants growing on the outside, what I really like as a horticulturalist and somebody who studied botany is to be able to see the roots growing. Because I've done it had time lapse before where you put a seed sandwiched between 2 panes of glass with a thin layer of soil, and you have the plants germinating and the roots growing, but sometimes the roots can go behind the soil and it's a little bit more tricky to see. But with this I can see the roots growing really easily, and it has great detail of the roots growing. I can see them at every single stage, and I'm not getting lots of insects like I would normally with a time lapse using soil. So it's really nice to be able to see the roots develop like this, and because of that I'm definitely going to try this with a few different plants. As I say, this is a plant which is well suited to growing in dry arid conditions. It grows in gravelly walls and in dry areas, but although the roots were constantly wet with this, they never suffered from any root rot. The reason for that is because it's exposed to air constantly. So being hydroponic, with hydroponics you need to make sure there's plenty of oxygen for the roots. This is quite a good method of doing it because the roots are always nice and wet because of the porous nature of the terracotta, but because they're also exposed to the air at all times, it makes sure that they stay nice and aerated and they don't get waterlogged. So you're not really going to have any root rot issues with this, which is nice, but at the same time you're not going to have any drying out issues as long as you keep it well topped up. So that means you can grow a very wide variety of plants. Doesn't have to be epiphytic plants, but I think this is extra well suited to it because epiphytic plants are hard to grow in normal soil substrates, so it would be nice to grow this for epiphytics because you're limited to where you can grow those kind of plants normally. But as I say, any plants should grow well in this, and I'm definitely going to try a few other plants and see how the roots grow out, because it'll be quite interesting to see probably how the roots develop. I could also do a few experiments with this, maybe put a little bit of feed here and there, see if the roots migrate towards the feed, see how it reacts. So as I say, very happy with the progress so far. I didn't have to actually empty the bottom at all. You can see it's completely dry, so the porosity seems to be pretty spot on with this. You did notice from the video though, every now and again you seem to have a few water droplets appear at the top. That was either when I was topping it up right to the top, or when we have slightly more humid conditions in the house. So if the house is very humid, there is a chance that some water might need to collect to the bottom, and I can just pour that back in the top. But it was sitting around 50% humidity in this room, and we didn't have any water dropping out the bottom, and we didn't have any dry patches, and everything seems to have grown quite well. So it seems to work quite well in that regard. So that's about it for this video. As I say, if you do like the product and you want to purchase it yourself, I will put a link in the description, and I'll also put a QR code up now so you can scan that, and if you do want to make a purchase of this product you'll be helping out the channel, as I'll get a small amount of commission. And I've also got a code as well, so if you use the code 58North alongside your purchase, you should also get $5 off of your purchase as well. So that's all for this video, and I'll probably be making a few more videos using the Vertplanter in the future, because I'm quite interested to see what other time-lapse footage I can get out of it, and also see what other plants can grow on it. But I'm pretty sure most plants should grow absolutely fine on this surface.